So I want to talk about some of the recent reads that I have loved. It's been a great start to the 2025. So yeah, starting off with book number 1, that is Beautyland. This has been pretty popular, I think. So to give a quick summary, basically we follow this woman named Adina, and she is an alien that was born on planet Earth to a single mother living in Philadelphia. But as she begins to grow, she recognizes that she actually has this knowledge of a distant, faraway planet. And then one day, a fax machine arrives, and she starts using that fax machine to communicate with her extraterrestrial relatives, which she calls her superiors. And she basically is reporting to them about the human experience and the human condition, and just relaying that information to them. This is a weird book. It was funny. I would say if you're expecting science fiction, I personally wouldn't really classify it as that. It's more so literary fiction and like a contemplation on life and the human condition. It was a little bit difficult to get into in the beginning, in part because I listened to the audiobook initially and I hated it because the book doesn't have like chapters, so it's broken down in parts, like the stages of her life, and there's a lot of pages in between them, so it's just like difficult to follow. I don't really like that in an audiobook format. And the other part is that Adina doesn't feel, at home on Earth, and so some of the writing felt like distant, so it was kind of difficult to connect to other characters in the plot, which I think was intentional, and also was through like a child's perspective, so that made it kind of difficult to get into. But once that was done, the last like 60% of the book, I read it pretty fast in just a few sittings. It made me cry. So since we are following these different stages of life, some of it is quite depressing, but there was still humor in it, and I still found it like oddly comforting. I think a lot of other neurodivergent folks can probably relate to the experience and to the writing, and other people too who have different mental health conditions. I might do a voiceover to put a few quotes in here. This nuance of grade school linguistics is challenging to articulate, though Adina tries in several faxes until her superiors reply, "Stop." This next quote might be kind of a spoiler, even though I think you can figure it out based on just like the plot of the book. But anyways, here I go. Anyone questioning whether God exists need only consider the brevity of a dog's lifespan. If there was a God, let alone a benevolent one, dogs would have lifespans similar to parrots. We'd have to provide arrangements for them in our wills. We'd never have to find them in the morning, turned to stone. But yeah, really would recommend it as long as you go into it knowing kind of ahead of time that it's not going to be a science fiction or like a thriller. But yeah, moving on to the second book, the second one I really loved, and that is Nothing to See Here. So this was a funny, absurd book. Basically, we follow this woman named Lillian, and she's down and out. She lives at home in her mother's house in the attic, and then one day she's contacted by this former friend from when she was younger, and the friend is asking her for help. She wants her to come take care of these stepkids, but there is a catch, and that is that the stepkids catch on fire whenever they're stressed out and upset. So despite how absurd that is, it was still like a really heartfelt read. It was funny. Also, them catching on fire seemed normal throughout the book, and I feel like that was a testament to the writing overall. I thought the way trauma was depicted was really interesting, and I liked the idea of depicting trauma being passed on to other family members, and while we might be biologically related to them, we can still find chosen family to support us through life. I thought it was cool to portray that and the defense mechanisms that we have through like literal fire. The main character, she also had to reckon with her own upbringing as she started taking care of these kids. She kind of had to confront that, which I found interesting to read. And so yeah, there were deeper themes alongside the humor, so I can appreciate that. I will say the book, similar to the other book that I criticized, they did use the same word a lot, and the repetition is kind of annoying to me usually. I let it slide with this book though because it was funny. Again, I really loved the plot and everything. Yeah, so. And I could relate to Lillian quite a bit. I don't know if she's the most likable person, but she grew on me and I had fun reading about her. Here's a quote that I think
summarizes pretty well like the themes. So it goes, how did people protect themselves? How did anyone keep this world from ruining them?
The final book that I read was The Swifts, A Gallery of Rogues. This is the second book and one of my all-time favorite books, or only my favorite book of last year, which is The Swifts, A Dictionary to Scoundrels. These are truly some of the most fun books that I have read in a long time. They are middle grade, but I still think adults can really enjoy them. They're basically these like murder mysteries. In this book, we still follow the main character named Shenanigan and her family, and they are on this new adventure going to Paris, and basically they're trying to solve or unravel this mystery of these art heists that have been happening. So there's a group of thieves that are stealing art. We also get to meet new family relatives, the Martinets, so that's the like Swift side of the family living in France. I will say I did not enjoy this as much as the first one, despite that it was still super witty though, creative, a lot of fun. I just think the plot was a little bit slower to get into versus the first one, but I absolutely love the queer representation in the book. I think that Beth Lincoln is an absolutely amazing storyteller and writer. Her use of language is just really funny and creative, and like I said, really witty. I cannot rave about these books enough. I think you really should read them if you are looking to read middle grade books for the first time.
Here are some quotes from the Swifts. Shenanigan's unsatisfied curiosity was almost painful, but since killing an old woman wasn't on her list of things to do today, she put all thoughts of snatching off the blindfold aside. Ah, thought Shenanigan cheerfully, I hate him. Nice to know these things right away. There is a horrible moment that comes for every child when you look at a grown-up and realize that they are also a person. Nothing can prepare you for it. It feels much like being picked up by the ankle and flipped upside down, the world as you know it turned on its head. I heard you have a needle pit in your library. That's ridiculous, protested Shenanigan. It was a javelin pit, and it was perfectly safe.
Yeah, those are the books that I have read starting, in 2025. It's been a nice start to my reading year. Last year I had a lot of like 3-star and 2-star reads, so this has been promising, and I'm also excited to go through my TBR because I have a lot of books that I have been meaning to read. I did DNF one book in the lives of puppets, which I might do a DNF video because I'm trying to get better at putting books down if I don't enjoy them that much. I've like powered through them in the past, and it's like, what's the point? Usually if I don't like it within the first like 30 to 50%, it's probably not gonna like pick up by the last few percent, of the book. Whatever, for the hell of it, let me discuss the In the Lives of the Puppets. So basically it's about robots. The main character, he has these like robots that he has saved, and someone had a really good like review of basically saying it's kind of akin to babysitting like the neighbor's kids who are like really precocious, and it's fun and kind of cute at first, but then it just becomes really obnoxious. I found them pretty annoying, and yeah, I just wasn't having that great of a time reading it. So like I said, I might do a video more in depth on that and then other reads that I don't finish. But anyways, if you watch this video, I truly appreciate it. I would love to know if you have read stuff recently that you really like. Feel free to share that. But yeah, thanks again if you watched.